So I just have to say, okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the meeting, the general love meeting for members. We are in the middle of an election campaign, of course, but the main news this week is the death of Brian Smith, who has been an absolutely stalwart supporter of ours and is absolutely wonderful. So as we settle into the space, I will just read a few words that he's put on, some of his encouraging comments. He always replied to our comments with such encouragement and love. So he would always say things like, amazing energy to you and flow. The truth resonates. The truth set me free. Time is now. Godspeed. Respect, love, and gratitude. All you need is love, no fear. Okay. And works if you work it. You are unlimited possibilities for well-being and success. Thank you. Makes sense to me. Love it. You got this. Thank you for helping and sharing. And it's just always lovely to receive those messages of when you can feel the vibration coming through somebody who's in their heart space, somebody who's sending you love and encouragement and cheering you on. And he was brilliant for that. And yes, and Rachel's showing off her love jumper there. So I'd like to go to Rachel first, and maybe she can say a few words about Brian.
Yeah, oh, it's so sad. And obviously he was on the last Beacons call. That was actually his last Zoom call ever, to my knowledge, where he was saying that he was yeah, well, maybe we won't go there, but he was trying to get out of where he was. So I mean, feel quite upset that, yeah, he was not necessarily receiving healing treatment, shall we say. And but anyway, hopefully he is helping us from an even more powerful place now. Yeah. So he was amazing, actually, and he was part of the freedom movement right from like January 2021, when I first started doing the People Speak Out calls, and he was very vocal. And then he joined the Love movement, the Love Party, when we started, and so he was a consistent, devoted supporter to everything, week in, week out. And yeah, so it's very sad that he's no longer with us. Yeah.
So if we can all just take a moment now to, in our own way, I don't know what your practice is, but to help Brian to go to the light and to transition into the higher energies. So now Brian is one, he's one with the cosmic energy, and he will be here looking and flowing through us, and we can perhaps feel some of that wisdom and some of that love and support coming through. So in your own way, if you pray or do whatever ritual you do to help release Brian into the light, and pray for his spirit and soul, and ask that he come and watch over us and help us, because that's such a good energy to have. Thank you. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late. Computer's been messing up.
We've just been paying tribute to Brian. Do you have any words to add?
Oh, he was such a gentle soul, and yeah, he can rest in peace now, but also he's been such a wonderful influence within the love movement. And I will miss his regular little comments that have always been very supportive. And I'm so glad that he was so active in the last meeting that he attended online. So yeah, I think it's the most he'd spoken on any of them. It's like he knew what was happening. Yeah. So thank you.
Isn't it? A lot of, yes, I've noticed this with people who are reaching the end of their life, often in this village. The day before, they'll, having not left the house for ages, they'll go for a long walk through the village, or and, you know, get themselves driven around or something, and sort of it's almost like a goodbye. We had a dog that did it. You know, it's a very interesting thing that people have this sort of sense of when they're departing, and he obviously used that time to impart some wisdom. But yeah, we will miss that. We will definitely miss Brian's encouragement and his just indefatigable positivity. It was just he was just wonderful man to have. So welcome Brian into this meeting. I'm sure you can be with us now, and we will go on to the business of the day, which it's got to be the general, hasn't it? Okay, Hugh and Carrie, how's it going down over your way? Hugh, do you want to speak first?
Yeah, can do. Up north here in North Wales, Anglesey.
Right.
I mean, I tried to contact. There's no independent standing here, so it's Labour, Conservative, Plaid, Reform, and Liberal Democrat, and that's it, I think. I've had one leaflet from the Conservatives, one leaflet from Plaid. That's it so far. They don't. I tried to contact the Reform guy because of all of them, Reform is probably the worst, or the best of the worst, if you like. But he wasn't even interested in getting support, getting discussions, or anything. So very disappointed in that. I won't vote for any of the others because, well, they're just so atrocious. They're all the same. I think it'll be close, probably, unless Reform. I mean, they're going at a pace. They seem to be wherever they are. I mean, the latest poll puts them at 24%. Whether he's just almost a paper candidate and just going to ride on the tails of Farage's, gaining momentum, I don't know. So it's really disappointed in terms of, the thing. So I think it'd be close. Gut feeling, it'd be close between Plaid and Conservative, because Conservative is the current MP here. But yes, I mean, I used to work with her, and like I say, I left the Conservatives 2 years ago. They were just going so bad. It was just beyond belief.
Really bad. It's like it is like they're deliberately doing it, isn't it? Now, Reform's interesting. I will come to you, Julie. I've just done a Hustings, and the Reform candidate wasn't there, and apparently they've declined invitations to all the Hustings in all the areas. So Nottingham Evening Post was saying. And I did think that was interesting, actually. And I think what you're saying is right. They are just riding the coattails. It might even be a top-down directive. I wouldn't be surprised. They are basically relying on Nigel Farage's personality to get all the Reform candidates through, is my opinion.
The other thing is, because they're not organised, and you can tell they're not organised, because I went to one of their Welsh the Welsh Reform meetings down in Cardiff, and it was at Swansea or Cardiff about 6 months ago, and it's the way they're set up. Then they're not organised. That's their problem. They're not organised, and most of their candidates, I believe, are just paper candidates, and there are probably maybe 20 or 30% that are actually active out there campaigning, would be my guess.
I'm sort of getting that idea myself, that they're actually just being told to shut up, keep their head down. We don't want any racist outbreaks, that sort of thing, and leave it to Farage and Tice. Anyway, I better move on to Julie. I've got hands everywhere. I'm going, oh, Julie.
Well, Carrie, you did say you go to Carrie first, and she has got her hand up. Although
I was just briefly wanting to say, Hugh, have you thought of spoiling your ballot paper? And I just wondered what people might think about that.
Can we come to a discussion? Let's go for a minute. But yeah, Carrie, let's have you now. Hold that thought.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes?
You can.
Good. Yes, I've had a brilliant week. Went to the local hustings, and we had the usual Lib, Conservative, Labour. but next to them was our local independent farmer, Pete, and a local guy who is standing for UK reform. And the two of them together, they're now actually working together. And they were the only two that actually spoke out about the climate, about geoengineering. It even got into the conversation. And there was like shock horror. And we at the back were applauding. And then we went to the pub afterwards, and there was quite a large gathering of us, about 8 of us all together, of people who said, oh yeah, fantastic, yes, we agree, it's great, you know what's going on. And then on Tuesday, we went down to Marazion, which is opposite St Michael's Mount, to leaflet for a guy who's independent in that area. It's not our area, because our area is Pete the farmer. But there's a guy here, and he is, he was a detective inspector. He has friends in high places. He knows all the legal angles. He knows exactly what's going on. And he is just amazing. And he is networking with our local independent guy, Pete, and we've decided we're all going to network together, as many independents as possible, and like-minded people. And his campaign is really taking off down there. And I just can't, I mean, I'm just so enthusiastic about it all. It's just been incredible. It really has, a real journey, you know, to meet different people and to find out. And I hope that by going to that hustings, even though, I mean, we've made waves, and so there will be maybe 1 or 2 people there who will think more deeply about what we said and what we stand for and what the truth is. You just never know, do you? But I mean, I was so proud of those 2 guys for just standing there. And incidentally, the lady who was conservative, did I say conservative there? No, it was Greens, not conservative. She had a nice name plate on the table, but she was too busy to turn up, which was interesting. But the Greens, the Libs, and the Labour were all spilling the same green rubbish. You know, it's like totally brainwashed and going on about wind farms out at sea, and just yeah. And I mean, there were so many good alternatives, and they don't even know that these wind turbines have a lifespan of 15-20 years, and they're ditched in landfill, and they're full of oil anyway, diesel, to set them off. And they don't know this. I mean, I need to tell them.
Isn't it interesting to get out into the real world once in a while, you know, and see what other people are actually think. I mean, I've just been in this hustings, and I was just listening to it. What a load of fucking dribble, you know. Like, I've got to compete with that, where she's going, and I've put so many million into schools and so many. I'm like, you haven't put anything in. You haven't put anything in. We put it in.
No. Taxpayers.
We're going, what the fuck are you on about? You've just completely turning out this nonsense.
Well, this independent guy down in the Penzance area has actually got a letter back from the Ministry of Justice, because he actually inquired about, was it legal to pay council tax, and he got some, I won't sort of read it out to you or anything, but he got very interesting reply, because it is just a notification.
Yes.
There's nothing legal about it, and they have a kangaroo court, and you know, they issue a sort of standard.
Harry, I would be really interested to read that reply.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of people would be. I mean, I don't know how confidential it is, but if it's,
I'll ask Dave if it's okay first to give it out to
pass it through emails, if because I think a lot.
Then I can yeah, I can get that to you, or he can get a copy to you.
Brilliant.
I mean, the various groups that, you know, I associate with on a regular basis, I mean, it's just amazing people, and it's just escalating. And we've been to council meetings as well, where they had these open meetings and they said, oh yes, we want the public to ask questions. So we asked the questions. I don't know whether I told you, but for example, you know, do you know, we asked the council, how much CO2 is in the atmosphere? Of course, they don't know.
Right.
And then they stopped these meetings suddenly because of the general election. I don't know whether that's an excuse or not, but I think we got them a bit hot under the collar because we were not asking the usual questions about planning permission and parking and all that rubbish. So anyway, but yeah, I'm absolutely on fire with this. It's amazing.
Well done, Carrie. That's brilliant. Anyway, so fabulous.
Okay, thank you.
Rachel, I'm going to come over to you. Your hand's gone down, but I suspect you still have something to say.
Yeah. So I know I was just going to pick up on what Hugh said about reform, and that's really interesting. That and what you said, Lynn, about them not sending anyone and just paper candidates, because we did our first hustings on Tuesday night, and it was actually for farmers. Very specifically, it was an NFU hustings for farmers. There was an audience of farmers, and I have to say, he didn't actually do that well, that guy, and he was the one who was sort of most laughed at in a way, and sort of the groaned at, you know, when the audience groans. So yes, I think you could be right, but it's so interesting, this whole process. I'm so pleased that it made no logical sense for me to stand, really. I'm so pleased that I did it, and thank you, Lynn, for your support in being able to stand, because yeah, I've learned so much, and it's so interesting, the hoops. I mean, I shared on the Beacons group about the challenges of dealing with Royal Mail and the labyrinth that they force you to go through at every turn as part of the whole process, as we found since the beginning.
I mean, I just got on the phone and talked to them. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm too thick to deal with this. Can you talk me through it? It's my first time and I'm a little independent. And they went, all right, look. They were all from, that was a terrible accent, actually. It was, they're all from Newcastle. So I was like, or from around that area. I was like, oh, that's a very northeastern accent. My husband's from Jarrow. Where are you from? And we have a little chat and everything. And they seemed sort of mildly, I mean, they never sort of said overtly, but it was like, oh right, independent. It was sort of like, just push her up the queue a bit. Like,
I guess it's the ultimate kind of test, isn't it? If you can't navigate the Royal Mail system, then you're unlikely to be able to navigate Westminster.
I had to ring up and say, look, I've got all these forms and these papers. What do I physically need to put on the box? I had to, and they got two different answers, actually. Well, so I rang back up and said, right, now really tell me.
Okay, so this was a point that came up at the farmers' meeting, the hustings, from one of the audience. Apparently there's all this funding, but it's DEFRA have made it so complicated to claim this support subsidy money that it's almost impossible for them to actually get it. And I said at that point, it seems to me that we have all forgotten that government and DEFRA are public servants. They're here to support us. And I would advocate a dramatic simplification of all of the processes of government. Why is it so complicated? Why is it so difficult? You know, why do you have to struggle? And so this is the thing, the people are literally struggling. This is at every level, whether you're dealing with the courts, whether you're dealing with, you know, official bodies, Peak Park Authority, you know, local councils. It's so complicated, and with complexity comes cost. You know, so like there is such a case for a sweeping away of this old legacy system. It's untrue.
It really is. Yeah, that's absolutely it. I mean, I sort of kept repeating it in the hustings, actually. It's about bringing power back to the people.
Yes.
Taking it away from the corporates, the MPs at the moment represent the corporates, and we, the people, are the ones that's supposed to be representing. And so I think I might have banged on about that a bit. Yeah. I've got fear in my bonnet about it at the minute. Anyway, so I've got Hugh first and then Carrie. So Hugh, would you like to come in?
Yeah, just on the cost side of things. I mean, everyone's been tied up in red tape, and we spend this year 16 billion, that's billion, on the civil service, just the civil service. And next year, it's going to go to 20 billion on civil servants. Now, they're employing more and more people to produce more and more legislation, more and more paperwork to basically nanny state manage everything that we do down to the finite detail. And that's the problem. And the cost, obviously, so there's going from 16 to 20 billion next year. And well, if you're employing all these people, what have they got to do? Well, they've got to produce something. And it's a vicious circle. You employ more people, you create more and more paperwork, more and more red tape, costs more and more money. Why don't they do, one of my things, I was writing some papers for circulation. And one of the things that, I was suggesting was actually what they need to do, because there's very little new in life that happens. So rather than new legislation, what they should just do is say, no more new legislation. That in itself would save billions.
Yep.
Okay.
I totally
And then the other thing is, well, if you want to change something, just look at existing legislation. And like Rachel said earlier, is make that better and reduce the red tape. Don't create anything new, because anything new is more costly. And that's all I really want to say about it. It's just.
I used to say this a while ago, actually, that when I was teaching in schools, I used to say I would just vote for anyone who would just fucking leave things alone for 10 years, because every year, literally every year, I had to teach something different. I mean, you'd think it would be easy, wouldn't you, to just, but no, every year they changed the curriculum. Every year they brought in a new exam system. Every year they brought, every flipping year. And I was always starting from ground zero. I was like, oh, I've got this topic nailed now. I've taught it. I know what I'm doing. And then go in. Nope. So I'm never teaching the same thing twice. Why? I mean, there was no reason for that. No, and it was just meddlesome, by idiots.
It's across the board.
By idiots.
It is. It's across the board. It's crazy.
We actually had a minister or something from the education department, sort of rail about something. He was going, oh, it's disgraceful. 50% of pupils are below average in math. I was like, yes, that's the definition of an average. Just like, and they're just, what the hell? You're running us. No wonder it's a shit show. Anyway, we better go to Julie first.
Right, sorry, I had to leave because somebody rang my doorbell, and it turns out it was the Labour Party. So they now know what I think of them and what I think of the whole political system, the whole health and education system. And he was still trying to tell me, oh no, but Steve, yeah, like, yeah, no, the whole thing needs changing. And I said, and he's just part of the system.
He's probably got home to slit his wrist, poor guy.
Yes. Anyway, I'm glad I'm here, and I'm so glad that I've connected with people who know what genuine care is. And the more we keep getting out that message about what genuine education should be and learning for life, what I've experienced as a teacher, that's why I left the mainstream teaching. I've taught from nursery to adults, including adult literacy and numeracy. And I've done teaching and assessing dyslexia and specific learning difficulties. And even with that, the whole system just stinks. And I was at an NHS conference last week, which is why I wasn't on the Zoom last week. And where is it going? They have even the stands that they've got that are talking about preventative healthcare and I went to one particular stand because I thought, oh, looking at the wording, hopefully they'll understand complementary therapies, completing healthcare with an E, not an I. We are not just an add-on. They were only focused on they make medicines. I was absolutely disgusted at that particular stand, but also I am optimistic in some ways, but I have to be the eternal optimist and wear my rose-coloured spectacles that they will start to change things.
Yeah.
But honestly, they are still, and most of the people that were there would be management from the NHS. They are still so blinkered, and it is so wrong what they are promoting, and they are continuing to promote the vaccinations. They're continuing to promote things like statins that are killing people and causing dementia and everything. And I'm so glad I allowed myself to break off from my holiday with my mum that I was on in Wales, and I've travelled through North Wales, so interesting that you were there. And I'm glad that the 20-mile-an-hour limit is coming off, supposedly, because driving through Wales, every flipping town and village, 20 miles an hour. And I actually honoured it because I thought, well, this is interesting. Let's see, how do I feel driving at 20 miles an hour? And when you see the actual chaos it's causing through the 20 miles an hour, they are causing more use of resources and things through that. And also, when you come out of that 20 mile an hour and you've got the maximum speed limit that you can go at, people are so fucked off at having to have been driving at 20 miles an hour, they put their foot down and they're not driving safely, a lot of them. And it is just ridiculous. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. And let me just show you my T-shirts.
Vote with hearts, joining the. Oh, well done! What a lovely T-shirt.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah. Did you get that?
Yeah. Well, it came yesterday. I was apparently the first person to order it through Cliff, and I've got another one that's pale pink, and I've got a maroon long sleeve one coming. So hopefully you can read that. I'll let you read it now.
Yes, I can. Yep, I can definitely. I could see both of it. It was wonderful.
So we've got the Great Awakening and.
Yeah, vote independent on Independence Day. Let's get our country back. Turn left or right.
Not left or right.
Not left or right. Forward together. Yay!
And I would say, and if you haven't got someone that you really trust as an independent, then spoil your ballot paper. And even if you're not registered to vote, I will go to the flipping bowling places, ballot places, the election places, and just go and voice. I am not voting. I'm not registered to vote because this system stinks. So you can see where I am, can't you? Thank you.
Oh, yes, you're quite excitable today, Julie. Right, let's go. I better go to Rachel, who's been waiting very patiently.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about this constitutional issue, and there was a very interesting interview between Neil Oliver and William Keat yesterday, which I posted on the main Vote Love channel and on Rachel Speaks Out. And in it, they were very specifically talking about the general election. William Keat gave us a big plug. He said vote independent. But the bigger discussion was about how unconstitutional and how unlawful, in truth, legislation is. That in truth, all legislation violates the people's rights. And so he was reiterating why trial by jury is such an important mechanism, because the jury can ignore any legislation in reaching its verdict. So that was really powerful. I really recommend everyone listen to that to really get, I mean, for example, with these speeding things, the 20 mile an hour limit, in truth, I've always said this, but I'll reiterate it, the public highways are owned by the people. So no one has the right, in truth, to charge us, like you, Les, or whatever, for going on those roads. No one has actually the right to change them into bus lanes and say we can't go on them. And as a free man and woman of the land, with an intention to cause no harm, injury, or loss, I know for myself, I will drive according to the conditions. So if there's a squirrel going along the side or a little rabbit sitting there, I'll probably go I'll slow down to 5 or 10 miles an hour. I don't need a speed limit to tell me how to drive. And I've driven for over 40 years now, I think. Since I was 17, I'm now 59. So for 42 years without a single accident. So I have actually got a speeding thing, and I've asked for a trial by jury. Well, I require a trial by jury, and I'm gonna take it as far as I can to see see what happens. I'll probably be banned from driving as a result, but I just feel we all have to question and say no, and question, and actually put it into the hands of the people, you know. So we have to push back and question. So whether we're doing it through standing for Parliament, or whether we're doing it just by simply questioning all of these things. And I would just say about this magistrates council tax thing, Carrie, and I would be interested to see that letter that you got, because I have been working with the guys who are doing the trust document, which is the anti-war document. And I had an incident where I was speaking to the magistrates court and about a listing, and they actually said, "Oh, that's nothing to do with us. They just rent a room. It's nothing to do with us. They just rent a room for the day here." Oh, so it's a whole thing is a facade to create fear, and it's actually unlawful. So and there's so many people now questioning, pushing back on everything: parking fines, speeding, bus lanes. Push back on everything. Do not roll over and accept anything. I feel so strongly, because if all the people said no and questioned, we would literally, and I think the system already is grinding to a halt, actually, from what I can gather.
I have a little story, actually. I got, this bureaucratic stuff that makes your heart sink. A letter saying one of my tenants hadn't paid their council tax, and or the council tax on this property hadn't been paid, and I had to. I was due in court on this date, and I could fix this now by paying such and such a fine. And there was no address on it. There was a telephone number and an email address, but there was no actual address for this. So, because I tend to try and keep things in writing. So I went to look it up, and it was called West Yorkshire Magistrates Court. And when I looked it up on the government website, there was no such court listed. There was a West Yorkshire Enforcement Agency or something, and there was a Leeds court, a Leeds Magistrate Court, but there was no West Yorkshire one. So I actually wrote back and sent it to the council, and I just put West Yorkshire Magistrates Court Leeds, and then just sent it and see what happens. But I just said, this looks like a fraud. You've got my name, you got my name wrong. You've got the my address where I'm living wrong, and this doesn't look, you've got your court name wrong. So what the hell? But anyway, yeah, that's a little aside. But yeah, you're right. We just need to start questioning absolutely everything. Do you really have the right to do that? Do you really have the right to fine me? Do you really have that? No, I don't think you do. Anyway, Hugh first, please.
Yeah, just on that council tax and the speeding, there's a two-part video on speeding where a guy deliberately didn't speed, but he was pulled up for speeding. I think he was like a mile per hour over, but he also deliberately didn't have, I think it was insurance and tax on his car. Now, he knew that he was going to get pulled up. He wanted to test the system. So he went through the process, and he did 2 videos. I'll see if I can find the links to them. I think I watched them about 3 or 4 months ago. And he had a plan, and he refined that plan, but he actually did get to a trial by jury.
Wow.
Yeah, he did get through all the way through, but they put him through a lot. So basically his approach was, before he entered the court, he just said that, do you recognize me as a living person? And there was one other thing he said, but that once he got into court, he said, I do not understand. I want a trial by jury. And those are the only 2 things, once he got into the court, that he said. He wouldn't say anything else. He wouldn't obey their instructions. Like if they asked him to move here or stand there, he said no. He just found a position stood in the court. and those are the only two things. And then he refined it ever so slightly in his follow-up video following getting to the trial by jury. But it took him, what they did with him is they first of all, in the magistrates, he had to go back and down into the cells because they didn't like what he was saying. They tried to deny him the trial by jury, but in the end they gave up and they consented to his trial by jury. That was one 2-part video, and then there's another video of people going to a court, and it's actually on video where it is them, the court actually stating that the council rent the rooms in the courts for processing the council tax. I'll try and find those 3 videos, the 2-parter and the one, and share them in the link. But yeah, more and more people are trying. Of course, you know, obviously, the more and more people that, like say, test the system, the better. But he did say you have to be prepared, and he was prepared. You know, he was fortunate to have the money to, when he wasn't working, and fight these things, and you have to have time and all the rest of it, you know, because they do put you through a blimmin', you know, trial, as it were, of your how it really, I think they test you how far you're willing to take it. Are you still willing to sort of, because they tie you up in time and all the rest of it, and paperwork and everything else, to try and not get you the trial by jury. They just don't like it. But it's there in legislation. You know, you could have the people. I'd have the piece of paper if I had the time and all the rest of it. But, you know, take the piece of paper. Well, it's here in legislation. It says trial by jury. And the trial by jury doesn't say it's limited to anything, any offence. It's for all offences. Any offence, you can have the trial by jury. So it's on the, you know, legislation government website.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Lovely. Thank you. Carrie.
Yeah, I saw those 2 videos. They were excellent. I was just going to say, if it okay if I just run through the 3 questions that were asked the Ministry of Justice, and their reply was, number 1, is the council tax liability order generated by the council a court document? Answer, no. Question 2, you say in your reply, quote, but any format is necessary provided it sets out the key elements of the order clearly, unquote. What key elements did the Lord Chancellor decide were necessary on the court document? Answer, that depends on the court document. Since the court does not generate a liability order, the Lord Chancellor has not specified any elements. And question 3, you say if the document contains the right details such as name, address, offence or matter of complaint, what if there is no name or address on the council generated council tax liability order? Answer, courts do not have a definition of a true copy and none is required. A certified extract in civil proceedings must comply with Rule 68 of the Magistrates' Court Rules, which states that, quote, an extract from the register certified by the designated office as a true extract shall be admissible in any legal proceedings as evidence of the proceedings of the court entered in the register, unquote. The requirement, therefore, is for the order to be extracted from the register to a new document which is certified by a court officer as being an extract. And that's a bit complicated, but basically it means that they, as you probably know, people don't attend their council tax, very few people, so they just do a sort of block one, and there's no signature, and then you get a man knock on your door and say and show you an iPhone printout of something or other, which is just a load of nonsense. And you know, this is going on and on. But I know so many people now that have not paid their council tax, and they've had so many people knocking on the door, and eventually nothing, because it's not legal. It's I think since not lawful, sorry, 2000 and I can't remember, 23, But anyway, I'll say this guy, Dave, the independent, he knows so much more about it than I do. So I will get that whole document to you so you can have a look at it. I was also going to say briefly about the 20 mile an hour nonsense. It's only a sign. There's no cameras. So, I mean, we just go as Rachel said, at the pace dictated by the circumstances. And, you know, there's cars parked on one side of the road. There might even be speed bumps as well, so you can't go very fast. But if it's clear, then we go at, you know, up to 30 miles an hour, which is acceptable through a built-up area. If it's not school turning out time, if it is, it's different. So you use your common sense. And I love seeing the sign that comes up that says, you know, we're doing 22 miles an hour, you're going too fast. So we always tell them what we think when we're driving.
And also, can I just come in on that? Because the speed bumps should not be happening. When my dad had broken his collarbone and had to go to hospital, it was absolute agony for him. And, you know,
yes,
they're in labour while they're in a vehicle. Loads of circumstances happen. Should not have the speed bumps. Yeah,
this is true. This is true. And also, you know, well done, Julie, for telling the Labour person what you thought, because I would have done the same. And our local UK reform guy was very much in evidence at the Hustings. He's never done this before, but he's so incensed with what's going on. He just put himself forward. He admitted, you know, he wasn't totally prepared for it. He answered up really well. But unfortunately, at the local Falmouth folk festival that was on recently, he was giving out some leaflets, and some people decided to duff him up and take his leaflets. But he was back later that day with more leaflets, so he wasn't giving up. And you know, we've joined forces with him, not necessarily because we're UK Reform, but because he understands what's going on, and we are networking with other independents and him, because it's for our local area.
Excellent.
And we've also got this new T-shirt. I know you're all showing off your T-shirts. I don't know if you can see this.
I'm left out. I've got one. Oh, lovely.
Have you? Yeah. Farmers Movement Cornwall. Yeah.
Is there
So-
other ones for other areas?
No doubt. Yes. Yeah.
Because I could do
so-
a farmers.
So we are in contact. We are now in contact with farmers, and we are talking to farmers, and we are making decisions, and we are informed about, you know, what we can do legally and all the rest of it. So,
But these are.
Rachel, can you
Sorry.
anyway, thank you.
Okay. So, right, lovely. Well, it all sounds like you're all doing loads, which is brilliant. We do have the I do not consent thing to discuss, but if we can just go to Rachel, if she's ready.
Yeah, so just to say, I've just ordered my Cliff T-shirt, Dream Big, a country run by the people for the people. That's the one I ordered. It's white on pink. So that should be coming soon. I just wanted to say about the council tax that there was a case, just to say, Wayne Leighton v Bristow and Suter in 2023, where it was held that liability orders are not a valid court document, and the court awarded compensation for the man against the bailiffs or enforcement agents. They're not even bailiffs, they're just thugs, corporate thugs, of £4,000. He got £4,000 compensation awarded to him from the bailiffs, from the court enforcement thugs. So that is a very powerful case, and that was only in 2023. So, you know, it is a precedent. We're talking about, because obviously when you go into this council tax with the trust document, you are actually going into the legislation. You're actually using the legislation. It's a form of equity law. You're using the legislation against itself. So they're using equity law, not common law, just to create that distinction. But that's an interesting case. And yeah, so.
Is it, Rachel? Sorry, can I just have that again?
So it's called Wayne Leighton, as in Leighton v Bristow and Suter, which are one of the big firms. in 2023. Liability orders are not a valid court document, and he was given compensation of £4,000 against the High Court Enforcement Company for essentially, I would imagine, kind of coming and invading his castle, because you have a right for your home to be your castle and to not be attacked. So when these thugs arrive and they start harassing you or clamping your car and doing all sorts, it's an absolute violation of your rights. And so in that context, 4,000 is pretty minimal.
Yeah, it is pretty minimal, but at least he got something. Anyway, that's good.
Oh, look, Julie's got, oh, you've got the dream big one. Hold it higher. Oh, yeah. Oh, brilliant.
You've both gone for white on pink.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that. I would get so mucky so quickly.
I've got the long sleeve version of that, but I quite like the white and the pink because it's obviously the colours are independent.
Yeah, I've got a dark maroon long sleeve t-shirt coming as well. Yeah.
Oh, get you. Okay, so can we go on to the I do not consent thing? Because there has been some progress on that on the channel this week.
Can I say something very important about that? Because there was something legal about that, where if you specifically write "I do not consent," that is the exact wording which essentially breaks the system. And if enough people put that, it would actually break the democratic system. I forget where I saw that.
I was like, oh my God, I want to put I do not consent, but I must vote for myself.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Because government by consent was established as a principle in 1966, was it?
Well, I can't remember where I saw this, but it was actually, I think it was that guy. I think I posted the video. It was the guy, the historian who's an expert on law, who said that there is a special High Court unit which reviews all the I do not consent, because if it reaches a certain critical mass, the whole system is void, allegedly. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And that might be a future campaign instead of standing for Parliament. But anyway, we're here where we are at the moment, so we'll just get this one out of the way, and then we can look at the things like that. But yeah, it definitely crashed the system. I think. Didn't I read that they had 11,000 or so I do not consent in the recent London elections?
Oh yeah, it was something huge. Yeah,
massive. I mean, which is quite a big. That's a big awakening. I bet there was probably about 20 just a few years ago. Yeah, there's a massive awakening. So anyway, that's excellent. It's 10-1, and we're actually looking like we're finishing on time. Does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss, or do they want to hear about my hustings? Because Rachel, you've had a hustings as well, haven't you? You've had the agricultural one. Are you going to the one in Nottingham?
I've got one tonight, which is at Eyam, which is the plague village. Yes. I will be focusing on COVID, because Eyam was the poster child of COVID, because in the Black Death or whatever, they starved to death because they didn't want to spread the plague.
They shut themselves off from the rest of the world.
Yes.
They basically decided that, they've got this, it was brought in on clothes or something, and they decided that they had this plague, but they weren't going to spread it around. So they shut the village off, and there's a stone up on the hill where they used to go and leave money, and people would leave them food, but never the twain shall meet. And there's this love story as well, these lovers who were one in one village and one in the other, and they go to the top of the hill and just sort of wave at each other. But also so sad. I mean, there's a family on another hillside. There's a family of about 6 buried, a husband, and basically a whole load of kids. And this poor woman had basically had to bury all her family. Dug the grave herself and everything in this little square area. It's an amazing story, that plague village. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, but I don't know if they've obviously coped a lot better with COVID, I think. They've gone, what? You what?
They were used, weren't they, in COVID? They were used as the poster child for keeping everyone safe. And look what Eyam did, in the plague, and that was like the true, you know, looking after your fellow man and woman. It was part of the psyop.
And
Can you
the
imagine though, the actual mentality, these Ian people, how they would look at us and go, oh no, oh, so scary, something with no symptoms. Ah!
But the current education system is promoting that, even to 7 and 8 year olds. They are teaching them about that in Ian, and it should not be being taught in the way it's being taught.
Oh, that's right.
They're taking school visits there and trying to get them into that fear already from that age, and it should not be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably questions about various plagues and things. I mean, even why did that sort of outbreak happen? Why was it spread around the country? And you just sort of think, I mean, I start to see deliberate intent about things where there probably isn't. But I do know that taking clothes, infected clothes to the US, well, as it was then, the Americas, was a way of exterminating the local population. And they trade the clothes for goods, and at the same time pass on things like smallpox and various.
And just look at how they're promoting people going on cruise ships, and now they're talking about when there's anyone that's poorly on a cruise ship, the whole ship can potentially be closed down, and that's what they started when they started with COVID. And that is where they're trying to go at the moment with.
It's what they're trying to go everywhere, isn't it? That's the whole WHO Accord thing, is basically keep you penned into your own home and take away all your rights. It's absolutely abominable bit of legislation. Well, and obviously it's the bird flu that the current focus is. So they're after the animals too, which is very annoying. But hopefully, I mean, if we have Independence Day, that shit show won't happen. It's a sort of parallel future, isn't it? Down this one, we've got the WHO Accord and all that goes with it, and jackboots on the streets. And down this way, we're just going, nah, don't fancy it. We'll do our own thing. We're quite happy. We're going to have some acupuncture. Yes, just interesting. I'll be happy when it's over, but at the same time, I'll probably be going, oh God, because I think a lot of the country probably will default to type and vote out of fear, but we just have to try and negate it. I think we need to do a little bit of a video about reform, just about party politics generally, that perhaps it's time to ditch party politics, this Yahoo corporate top-down system. I mean, even Farage and Tice have corporate interests that are served by them being in Parliament, and it just seems to be the case that all parties are going to have that. So at some point, if they get big enough, they're going to have these corporate interests, or they're going to have the corporate interests which allow them to get big enough, one way or another. It's not about us. And this adversarial, as I say, Yahoo type of politics just is completely ridiculous. We're there to represent our constituents and get the best deal. We should be having proper, sort of brainstorms. How can we do this? How can we get this off the ground? How can we do what we want to do? How get that rail network in place or anything, instead of, oh, your idea is shit because blah, 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 blah. We should all be working together on all this sort of
and
thing.
that's why it'll be good if people do watch the video that Rachel mentioned, Neil Oliver with William Peace. It was very, very good on that as well. Yeah.
So let's have Rachel on that, on something.
Yeah.
Up, Rachel.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that this was a really big thing which came out of the hustings. Now, the Labour guy wasn't there, but the Con party, Sarah Dines, was. And this, I think it's a very big issue for hustings and for us to bring out over this next 2 remaining weeks, because this thing that it can only be red and blue. And we were actually she actually called us the vote splitters. It's like, you're these vote splitters here. How was she referred to us? So this is the big issue, that this is the thing to break, this mentality that anything other than red and blue is a wasted vote. This is a very big thing for us to break psychologically, a very important thing and that's why when I did, and thanks to Cliff actually, because there is a piece of Ipsos survey which was done last year, which is 91% of people do not trust politicians. They're the lowest trusted profession in the whole of the UK, and there's a mass of people who are disillusioned with politics and politicians. So just by not being a politician, we have a massive chance, independents have a massive chance to pick up all those votes. So it doesn't have to be red and blue. So it could be that people just decide, fuck it, I'm just going to vote independent. And that wouldn't that, and let's keep visioning that, because it is possible. I really see the possibility of that. It's not a lost cause, but that's the psyop to break. That's the biggest psyop that's being played on the British people. It can only be red and blue, and it's not true.
It's so not true. Yes, I think if we can start banging that message out, I mean, I'll share anything that you do, Rachel, and I'll try and get some myself. I really hate it. I got my video out and everything. I was all set up the other day. I was sat in the garden and I totally forgot what I was going to talk about. And it was just what I've said to you now. It's like, oh yeah, I've got it all in my head. It's all good. And I sat there going, can't think what I've got to talk about. I know there was something I definitely wanted to say. Just gone.
Yeah.
And then the people started attacking me, so I had to move on. I had to go and put him back in his box. Silly beggar. Right. So I think we're complete. Are we
Yeah.
complete?
A merry solstice. Very powerful. Pivot. Today's the pivot point. So.
Pivot point today. Yes. So tomorrow we have it's actually technically solstice, isn't it?
No, I think it's today.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Oh, it's the full moon tomorrow at 9:08 p.m. Actually, it's I've got an American diary, so it's actually early hours of Saturday morning, I think.
We're going to some tomorrow night. We're going to meet up with people and going to some old standing stones, and we're lighting a beacon. And I think they're going. It's going to be lit across Cornwall.
Oh, lovely!
Brilliant. Well done.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Carrie, I was sorry to see Stonehenge had been desecrated.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Just stop oil.
Yeah.
Made it orange, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm amazed they got that in, because the security of Stonehenge is absolutely phenomenally. That must have been allowed somehow, because it's 24/7 Serco.
Yeah, there is a.
We've got masses of standing stones down here in this area and down towards Penzance. They're just everywhere. You know, these Neolithic, like, because Cornish people are still very much in touch with their pagan roots, and they've got lots of, you know, festivals and things that are all pagan orientated, and it's really good. And you know, with the hopefully the Stannery Parliament, the Cornish Parliament being set up, then, you know, where we've got our flag and we've got our own language. Well, I say we, you know, the people, and they are generally independent thinkers anyway, I think, which is good. Yeah.
Down there than here, where it's really dozy.
But it's unfortunately it's the incomers who are very middle class, who are the ones who are a bit more staid, you know, in their approach. So I think they've all changed from cons. They're all voting Liberal now.
Oh,
they don't know what else to do.
Right. So my thing on that is, we talk about two cheeks of the same backside.
Yeah.
Liberals are the thing in the centre.
Pimple. Pimple on the bottom.
We won't say the arsehole.
Oh dear.
Oh, we've degenerated into bottom humour. I do think we should.
But the lotus comes through from the manure.
It does, yes.
And that's where we are, and we need to keep on the positive, but that doesn't mean we do not assert ourselves. We will positively assert ourselves, and we are changing this. Proper Independence Day with a TS.
I go to a Spanish class I've been going for a couple of years, and I gave one of the ladies there a copy of the light paper, and she said, oh, what's this? I said, it's really interesting. She said, oh, are you a conspiracy theorist? I said, there's lots of conspiracies, and left it at that. So I'm going tomorrow, so I don't know if she's there, whether she's going to have a go at me about it or not.
Yeah.
Well, if she does, if you tell her that the CIA and FBI actually came up with the term conspiracy, and they did it deliberately to now use it in the shadow way. And so,
Well, yeah, look at was it Copernicus? I mean, he discovered something very scientific, didn't he? And the church imprisoned him and turned it around and called him a heretic. I mean, this has been going on throughout history, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And
Really,
you'll suck it up and
they'd love nothing better than to burn us at the stake.
yeah, I'd be at the stake, I think, if I was back then. Probably have been. Anyway, better wrap it up. Very nice to see you all, and we'll dedicate this meeting to Brian and say thank you for his presence in our lives. And lovely to see you, and we'll see you next month.
Okay,
See you next
thank
week.
you. Thanks.
Bye.